Greetings, everybody, and welcome to today's VentureBeat webinar on e-commerce performance marketing trends for 2022, brought to you by yellowHEAD. My name is Dave Clark. I'll be your host for this VB Live event. Before we get started, just a few quick notes. I want you to know, first of all, that this will be an interactive webinar today, so if you have any questions for the speakers, we invite you to type them at any time into the Q&A panel on your screen. Get all of those questions in. And also, you can see we have 5 speakers today. So if your question happens to be specific to one particular person, if you could help us out by indicating that person's name in your question, that would be great. You'll also notice that on your screen, there is a handouts panel where you can access a couple of different resources that we've set up for this webinar. So take a look there when you have a chance. And I think that's everything you need to know for today. So let's get started with today's discussion on e-commerce performance marketing trends for 2022. And let's kick things off by meeting our speakers. First, we have Gretchen Saig-Fleming, Chief Commercial Officer at Hydro. Rob Webb is Senior VP of Growth at Tonal. Ren Lacerda is Head of SEO at CarMax. Gal Barr is Co-founder and CEO at yellowHEAD. And Franco Fellini is Digital Marketing Instructor at UC Berkeley Extension. Why don't we meet Gretchen first? Gretchen, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you do?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Hydro, which is a connected rower. I'm responsible for the sales and marketing function. The vast majority of our business is direct-to-consumer e-commerce, and I joined Hydro after 8 years at L'Oreal, where I ran the luxury portfolio e-commerce business and also served as the Chief Marketing Officer of North America.
Great. Thanks, Gretchen. Let's move to Rob. What can you tell us about yourself, Rob?
Hey everyone, Rob Webb here, SVP of Growth at Tonal. I run all of our paid media, DR and brand spend, and analytics and e-commerce behind all of that. I've been at Tonal for 3 years, based out here in the Bay Area, and I've been out here for about 15 years working in consumer product, ad tech, startups, and happy to be here with you all today.
Thanks, Rob. Happy to have you. Next up is Ren. Introduce yourself, Ren.
Hello, everybody. I'm the head of SEO at CarMax, and where I work like growing the team and helping us to create the best experience for people to buy and sell their used cars. I also have a lot of experience in e-commerce, in brand e-commerce, and also in higher education, been in digital marketing for about 15 years, more than that in marketing, started in the 90s. I'm really glad to talk with you all and share our take on digital marketing.
Great. Thanks, Ren. Next in line is Gal. What can you tell us, Gal?
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. I'm Gal Barr. I'm the co-founder and CEO of yellowHEAD. yellowHEAD is one of the biggest performance marketing companies in the world. We offer a wide range of services from organic to paid, SEO, ASO, paid acquisition, creative productions, as well as some creative technology offered as a SaaS service. We work international with huge brands, if it's Tinder, Twitter, Airbnb, Zynga, and specifically in e-com, we work with companies, startups like TytoCare and Revio, all the way to huge brands like Old Spice, Gillette, and Pampers.
Terrific. Thanks, Gal. And last up is Franco. Tell us about yourself, Franco, and the work you do.
Hello, everybody. I'm Franco Fellini, and I'm a digital marketing instructor for UC Berkeley Extension. And when I'm not teaching, I'm working as a consultant for small and medium businesses, and with a special focus on the subscription-based business model.
All right. And Franco, you're going to be leading us through today's discussion as our moderator, and we're ready to get started now with that discussion. So I'm going to turn things over to you. Take it away.
Thank you, David. And we have a great panel of speakers today. So let's not waste our time. Let's start the discussion. So I have first question. The first question is 2021 has been a very busy year for marketing and e-commerce with many changes and new trends. Where are marketing and e-commerce heading for 2022? What are the new trends? I would like maybe Gal to start the conversation, but everybody is welcome to join.
Yeah, thanks, Franco. Happy to start. Well, actually, 2022 is around the corner, and we can already see the trends going on. Happy to share from the agency perspective, as you know, we work with so many clients, so we actually see the trend is going on. What we see from our clients' portfolio that there's a large investments in budgets going to specific verticals in e-com, if it's beauty, fashion and clothing, and also health and fitness. In terms of how privacy is affecting the budget, you can see that most of them are actually diversifying the budgets over the platform. So if we saw more Google and Facebook in the past, now we're seeing more the diversify of budgets towards TikTok and Snap as well. That's one thing. Another that you see a large investment over to the organic. So if they have an app, they invest much more in the App Store optimization, and the web, they invest much more in the SEO strategy moving forward to 2022. And obviously the creative is always the the core of everything our clients is doing. So creative has a huge investment going forward as well. In terms of just a bit about what we see from the platform side, it's really interesting seeing how COVID urged the maturity or the aging of the platform itself. So if TikTok was considered a very young, early adopter platform, now over 70% of the users are over 18. And Generation Y and Generation Z are very affected from what happened on the creators and in the social environment. So we see a lot of focus on those platforms as well. Speaking with the platforms, and we know that a large focus next year will be to do a full integration of the shopping process from within the platform. We know that the users are very, they don't like the redirect. They don't like to stop in the middle of the funnel. It's causing a lack of trust. And all platforms are trying to do a full integration so they shop within the platform. And maybe last thing that maybe it's a wishful thinking, but I've been in the industry for so long, so I used to hear 10 years back that this year is going to be the year of the mobile, and we waited a few years till it actually happened. So we really wish as a marketeer that this will be the year of the AR. Facebook changed itself to Meta and the metaverse, and everybody's expecting to see a lot of push over there. And speaking with the platforms, I think that Snapchat as a camera-based platform is in a very good position to be maybe the first one to leap in and to be the platform that really can make an impact on e-com. Just before, they have like 6 billion lands and 300 million users a day. So many people are being scanned by the lands. They have so much data, and they can almost, they're almost there in terms of being the platform to rule the try before you buy. Definitely in the what happened in the face recognition in terms of beauty and cosmetics. So this is where I think it's 2022 is heading.
Yeah, maybe if I can jump in. COVID has had such a profound disruptive impact on all of us, but really fundamentally on consumer behavior. And so 2020 was the year of COVID, where everybody was on lockdown. A lot of products and services, the only way that you could actually access them was through e-commerce and through digital platforms. And so consumers became so much more demanding in terms of ease of use, clean user interface, lack of friction, high touch service environments, and really the ability to do almost everything that you would have done in a brick and mortar environment online. So really content and more experiential content has become more and more important. Then of course, 2021 was kind of a continued evolution. I think we're all asking ourselves, is 2022 going to be a post-COVID environment? Or when does COVID go away? And the reality is we're probably going to live with it for quite some time, but the consumer expectations have radically evolved and elevated, and they're just going to be demanding more from their online experiences. I do think that social commerce is going to continue to be a big dimension of where the space goes. again, consumers are demanding more. They've been spending more time on social platforms, interacting with people because they haven't had the ability to do that in real life to the same degree. And so, as brands, to bring your e-commerce experience closer to those social platforms and integrate them more seamlessly with experiential content is another thing that consumers are going to continue to demand.
Thank you, Gretchen. And let's move to the next question so we can also touch multiple topics. There is one important topic, is the balance between organic and paid is recently shifting, as Gal mentioned before. And on one side, the paid costs are going up. On the organic side, Google is getting better in changing the way it's capturing the user intent. And what is changing for marketing, and how can we leverage the new scenarios? I think I will go back to you, Gretchen, if you want to try to answer this question.
Sure. So, as we all know, those of us that are performance marketers, the platform costs continue to get more and more expensive, plus 30%, plus 45%. And so as marketers that are responsible for managing a budget and making sure we're as capital efficient as possible in acquiring consumers, we have to get more creative about how to do some of that in an organic way. I mentioned that a lot of consumers are spending more time on social platforms, and they expect to be able to interact with brands and retailers like they can interact with their friends. And so the need and the push and the scale of community management and to interact with consumers on organic, while it's a one-to-one interaction, if the comments are public, it's actually a one-to-many interaction. And so there's an opportunity to sell, there's an opportunity to engage, and I think there's also an opportunity to leverage your existing members of your brand and advocates of your brand to generate some user content that helps to amplify your brand message. But it's always going to be a balance because the eyeballs are on the platforms, and they're always going to want to continue to charge us. So you've got to be really creative in terms of how you interact with consumers and create those really experiential moments that brings them into the brand from an organic perspective.
Yeah, maybe happy to add on that. Happy to add on that. First, totally agree with Gretchen about the fact that you need to invest more on the organic side of things, and in terms of the automation of the platforms, and we as advertising quite losing the control and the ability to control what's happening if the CPC is up and the optimization part. And we've seen what happened with Google UGC and with Facebook changing to AAA. So first, you must, as an advertiser, keep diversing your platform. So work on the entire funnel, work on TikTok, work on Snapchat. It's not enough that Facebook or Google is working well for you. You must keep diversing that. So whenever something changes, you have enough legs you're standing on. And in terms of what you can control, once again, it's only creative. Once the search engine and the platform is taking the control, is doing everything automated, and the only thing that left for you to impact is work on your creative side. So you must understand your users. You must generate better creative and analyze them, because all you have to do is just create the best creatives that you can and upload them to the platform and pray. So you must take a very strong position over there. And I'm seeing more and more advertising understanding that on one hand, it's great to diverse, but all platforms will go to a full automation, to machine learning, and we will be left with strategy and creative.
Thank you, Gal. I would like also to have the Ryan take on this from his experience at CarMax.
Yes, thanks. So one of the interesting things that we see brands shifting their attention and their budgets from paid to organic, there's a big surprise waiting for them. One of them is SEO is not anymore a thing of let's make some tech changes and make some copy changes, target some keywords and get it done. it becomes significantly more complex. One, because of AI is getting Google faster, so it's changing faster, it's more dynamic, it's becoming more complex. The search changes a lot. Second, because you are also serving an algorithm on top of your customers. So you have to create experiences that satisfy the algorithm so they can show you and the customers can then need to enjoy. A lot of the times these two things are conflicting and you have to figure out like what is the solution so I can be pleasant to Google, but also effective to my customers. That's a big challenge. And the last one is that a lot of times there's a lot of advancements in SEO, especially like structured data and things that put a magnifying glass on the value that you bring to the business, who you are, your trustworthiness, and all these kind of things. So sometimes to grow in SEO, in organic search, requires changes in the business, changes in how your brand is perceived, changing in how Google perceives your brand, then how users perceive your brand. So big point is that it's very, very complex. It is not a simple thing. And instead of add money to expand your operations, you need brain power to, in terms, not only brain power, but also ability to execute faster, ability to absorb things like you will fail most of the time. So you have to interact fast so you can find the success. There's a lot of challenges in big operations of SEO that a lot of brands are probably not aware where they're getting into. They're thinking it's just a little thing that I have a few developers doing some things, some copywriters writing some things, and I'm going to get all this Google traffic for free, no ad spend. It is complex. But on the other side, once you get a success, when you get your position, it is significantly cheaper to keep this and maintain this. So there's a lot of value in the long term of SEO. So brands need to understand that the SEO is a hard game. It's very hard. It's very fought out war, but it has a lot of value that stays there, that's resilient. There's a lot of long-lasting value that stays there.
Thank you, Ryan. You just touched a topic that I really excited me, I really care about, is the conflict between serving the Google algorithm and serving the customers, all the conflict that arise from that. Let's move to the next question. We have a very strong, very important topic that is privacy, and privacy is a key topic we can't afford to ignore anymore. Given the European GDPR and now given Apple's recent stand on privacy, do we need to prepare for even more restrictions? How can we reorganize our job to compensate for the loss of data access? This is not an easy question, but maybe Rob can help us to navigate this problem.
Yeah, so I mean, our view is that it's certainly not a blip. This is going to be a trend that doesn't go away and increases and intensifies. So we should all prepare for more privacy lockdowns. And as a consumer, I honestly personally hope it continues. As a marketer, it does make the landscape we're working on complex. And I think equally impactful if we've got sort of data reducing infidelity. We also have a massive shift in media consumption. So the TV viewership declining rapidly. It's still the biggest channel out there, but shift to mobile non-ad supported media consumption. As marketers, there's another huge change that comes into our world. So media landscape rapidly changing. We've got the privacy landscape massively changing, and it's hard, but I think it also does present really interesting opportunities for marketers who deeply understand the channels they're working in and sort of who their counterparts are on the other side of these platforms. And I do think it bodes well for D2C businesses. If you're a old school CPG company and you're trying to find your GRPs and your TRPs, that's much more difficult now. And I think the platforms, non-TV platforms, are going to be sprinting to try to satisfy those models as best they can, and probably Facebook is at the forefront of that. But there's a lot of sophisticated platforms like the Reddits, LinkedIn's, Twitter's out there who are trying to keep up on the sort of the ad tech side of things. And then I don't think subscription models are gonna slow down either. So you think about all the places where marketers today can get in front of consumers. Well, we need to brace for impact there as well. So major social platforms. It hasn't hit the Facebook, Instagram world, but it's hitting podcasts right now, and it's obviously hit streaming platforms already. So it's not boring, as we say daily. It's never boring being a digital marketer these days, and there's tons of opportunity out there to navigate the landscape, and it certainly makes it interesting, and really pushes folks to make sure they understand what's going on, because things are changing so fast, you can get left in the dust pretty fast.
Thank you, Rob. I would like to have the agency perspective on this topic from Gal. How you deal with all the implication of iOS 15 and so.
Yeah, sure. As a prep for this webinar, I've spoken with all the friends and colleagues in the platform. So I asked them new features, what's happening on ecom, releases, betas, and then I asked them, what about privacy? And everybody just say, can we move to the next question? So it's a big issue for the platform, but I totally agree with Rob that we as marketeers need to look on the upside, on the opportunities that it generates, and it does generate opportunities. One thing is the changes that iOS 15 brings to the ASO landscape, and it gives it much more power. With Apple changes now, you can do a couple of things. You can already do the in-app events in the store itself. So adding those signals to the store enable you to increase your ranking and store visibility and search quite a lot. But maybe the more exciting change will actually supposed to happen in December. It's being delayed, but hopefully it will. The fact that Apple in the store will allow 35 different creatives testing, it's something really exciting for us. It's a real game changer. Google Play was the forefront of that, but now Apple is doing something even more revolutionary, and the possibilities for audience segmentation will be really, really strong, sending traffic either from paid or from organic. So that's a really game changer for the industry. We're spending so much money in media, but actually, it all comes down to the conversion rate within the store itself. So that's a huge leap forward in terms of the possibility in iOS 15. On top of that, I do think the platform realized that the privacy issue is damaging them. Yeah, everybody's seeing and understanding that there's lack of data. The advertisers seek for solutions. Sometimes they find them in the organic part, and sometimes in another creative ideas. But when you talk with some of the platform, the solution they offer is that you will base everything on creative. So if in the past you match the audience and build the creative for the right audience, now the platform are working vice versa. They advise you to build the best creative you can, upload it to the platform, and then trust the machine learning, trust the platform itself to send all the right signals, and from the creative, it will match with the right audience. So I think, privacy is here, and as Rob mentioned, it's nice as customers, but challenging as the advertisers. But I think the challenge is rolling up to the platform itself, and they are starting to start finding the right solutions.
Thank you, Gal. And Ren mentioned before that everything is getting more complicated, more complex, and Google is adding complexity because moving to a cookie-less world, they are introducing Flock that is completely new technology. So what is going to be the impact of those changes on the customer journey and in general from your point of view on the impact on the marketing?
Sure. So for many industries now, for many spaces, there's a lot of the SEO opportunity on providing information to customers who are very early in their buyer's journey. They're trying to figure out, do I need it? What do I need? What's the things that I need? We call it this research type of content. So bringing these people to your website, to your experiences in general, you need to track how are they progressing, or are they progressing or not. It's a big part of how you can optimize your whole experience to help customers to get into later in their journey, so they can actually serve them the e-commerce opportunity so you can have a chance of selling a product to them and converting a sale. When we have this cookie-less world, this FLOC and all these experiences, it becomes harder for us to understand how many users are coming back, where are they going, are users consuming content coming back and converting at a higher rate. So it makes it more complicated for you to understand the progression. And at CarMax and other places that I have connections with, we see experience and progression as a big pillar of value for Google and SEO. If you progress or not your customers, there's some correlation with performance in that, and in some instances a very strong one. So making it harder for us to understand and optimize our progression when we bring early in the journey customers will make it more complicated for us to realize actual revenue opportunity for SEO and also from other brands. I don't even need to speak to other paid channels. It's obvious what the complications are.
Thank you, Ren. And I would like also one word, a few words, just to stay within our schedule from Gretchen, how those changing perception of privacy is having an impact for Hydro and marketing at Hydro.
Sure. So I think, Ren, you probably see this on the side of automotive purchase, which are especially big ticket and highly considered purchases. And I think it's the same, at Hydro, we have an over $2,000 price point. We know it takes consumers a significant amount of time to go through awareness, familiarity, consideration to purchase. And so as marketeers, the opportunity for us is to be able to put together those messages in a cohesive conversation over time. And these data privacy issues are making that more and more challenging to do in targeting anonymized consumers. So I do think that the challenge and the opportunity for brands is to create the right level of value exchange with consumers to get them to volunteer their information so that you can speak to them through your CRM efforts and directly via first-party data to take them through those very carefully orchestrated consumer journeys and to get more and more sophisticated about doing that. But you have to give some value to a consumer for them to voluntarily raise their hand and give you their data. So I think, and there's lots of ways to do that. Sometimes it's about an economic incentive. Sometimes it's about unlocking some exclusive benefits, content, privileges, et cetera. And I think that's one of the places where we have a big opportunity as marketeers to get really creative.
Thank you, Gretchen. And yes, it's very interesting topic. How you can compensate with more work and more incentives, and so. Okay, so let's move to the next question, and this is about kind of a more wide perspective on the future. So, the role of marketing and marketers is rapidly changing. New technologies and new user behaviors are reshaping our world and our jobs. So looking beyond 22, what do you see? Maybe Ren, if you want to start the conversation. Everybody, by the way, is welcome to join.
Sure, I can start. Like, one of the things that we notice is that natural language processing, it's rapidly becoming an item, especially on the organic side, but in all digital as well. So things that we're seeing right now is that brands using NLP to generate incredible amount of content that not only comes at a low cost and a fast pace, but obey their brand guidelines and obey their legal guidelines. And we can train these algorithms to generate a lot of content that would take months to generate in any other way. The other thing that I'm seeing multiple brands that I know using is having NLP to analyze your site to identify you opportunities for SEO. For example, where to link to where to link to who from where, problems that we have in your own site, and that increases the amount of opportunities you get, and analyzes like what are the best ROI that you can have and all the opportunities you have. So it gives the speed to your team to understand what the opportunities are and things that you can work with. On the other side, we see Google using this to understand how the searcher's intent is and changing their sites more often. This is also connected in how developments in AI allow Google to change their SERP and how they compose a SERP and test with more frequency so they can get confidence and have major releases more often. By the way, today we just had a new Google Core update starting, kind of good timing to go. So we're going to have more and more Google becoming dynamic, understanding the user. We see the SERP changing almost on a daily basis, the composition, new elements, how things change. So it makes it a faster world where content is generated faster, is good quality content, and is going to become better. None of this existed 2-3 years ago, or I would dare to say like 1 or 2 years ago. So I can only imagine in the next couple of years how advanced this will be, how fast the things will become, and how companies and brands who don't embrace NLP and machine learning are going to be able to keep up with the Joneses when other companies are doing it. So it's a big wake up. Like, you better follow up what's going on, because the pace that is going is fast, and the potential for disruption is big.
Thank you, Ren. And now maybe Rob.
Yeah, could I follow on that? I think
yes,
I had my first experience earlier this week with, I think it was a bot written, NLP written post about something I was doing research on, and it was actually useful. And it wasn't just, I didn't end up there and think like, oh my God, I'm just on a bot page. Yeah. Go back and find something else. It actually stayed, and I was like, you know what? I bet this probably was written algorithmically. And yeah, I get it. I mean, it's particularly in a search-driven business. I think that's massive. I would imagine, Ren, your business is massively search-driven, and there's such a wide spectrum. That's like, are you search-driven, or for someone like us, our product looks like it kind of came down from outer space. It's not a people are searching for things that are sort of tangential to it, but people aren't hitting whatever 1997 Hyundai sedan they would be in the CarMax world. I think another major distinction too, dying back to earlier topic, is like marketers that are up until this year, if you were if your app was sort of the point of your spear, it's kind of a coin toss as to whether there's some people who loved apps and they're like, great, let's lead with apps, and other people maybe their board pushed them to have an app, and like, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to have an app, and that became a piece of their strategy. Well, with privacy lockdowns, that suddenly is maybe much more painful, and now there's a huge difference between what you can get from web traffic and what you can get from app sales, or if your business is running through an app. And I think something I've been thinking a lot about is this sort of machine learning AI landscape is for most marketers, if you're at a very large company and you've got big budgets and you can have teams of marketing focused data scientists and machine learning engineers, you need to be getting into the fray. And there's certainly companies that are offering those as services to smaller businesses, but most of those are fairly new. So you don't have to hire your own team. You can use their product and tap into some machine learning and AI. But I think the biggest role of these technologies for marketers today is the fact that the world's largest employers of AI and machine learning engineers are the counterparties we're dealing with on the platform side, right? I'm sure 70% of the world's machine learning and AI engineers are employed by media platforms or something like that. So having an awareness of how the algorithms work that those companies have developed and how they're changing over time, and what are the wrinkles and how do they behave, and Gal, you mentioned it, creating beautiful creative with lots of variations and uploading them to platforms and seeing what happens, and knowing that, okay, last month they actually started favoring a broader audience, and this month this type of targeting is no longer working, and if we refresh our ad sets on these sort of cadences, the algorithm tends to favor that. That sort of level of detail and granularity is where the AI and machine learning world has like a daily and hourly and by the minute impact on huge numbers of marketers, regardless of the size of the company that they're working for. We're dealing with it all day, every day, but it's not necessarily in our walls. It's actually in the platforms that we're working in.
Thank you, Rob. Really, really important consideration you're making. And so I would like now to switch to section of the webinar where I'm asking specific question to each of you, to all our panelists, but obviously everybody is invited to chime in and join the conversation. So let me start with Gretchen, if is that okay. So I know you have a very strong experience in fashion and now with Hydro. So my question is, having a strong media presence and selling through social media channels is no longer just an option. Okay, everybody today was talking about social media. So what strategies can we adopt to protect and promote our brand identity while remaining in control of the user experience? Will our customer ever come back to our website and apps, or they will leave their entire customer journey on social media platforms?
Sure. So I have some perspective on this from the beauty industry as well as from connected fitness. And in beauty, you know, when I was at L'Oreal, obviously beauty is a very visually driven platform. And the vast majority of cosmetics consumers are discovering new brands and new products on Instagram because it's such a visual medium. And they also have the ability to sort of share and connect with their friends. And platforms like Instagram are creating their own direct e-commerce capabilities, right? Which makes a lot of sense from a consumer perspective because you want to take as much friction out of the journey and the moment between when someone says, oh my gosh, that is such a beautiful red lipstick, I want to buy it right now. You want them to be able to do that fast. And it's true, then you have a little bit of a dependency on the platform, in this case, Instagram, to uphold the brand experience. And your only control really is around content, right? Content and messaging. So I think that's what you have to be really careful about and stick to sort of visual cues about your brands that consumers recognize. Now, interestingly, from a connected fitness perspective, and at Hydro, we think a lot about not only the interaction between one of our members sitting down on a machine and what do they get out of that experience, but also connecting multiple members across an ecosystem where they can really support and connect each other's journey. And you know, what we find is that we need to be, from a social platform perspective, we need to be wherever our members are. And while Facebook and Instagram had been kind of the vast majority, you know, one of you gentlemen had talked about the dramatic proliferation across platforms that's happened in a really short period of time. And we now have 20 organic communities across platforms that are all organized by our members. They were not designed by the brand. And so our role and our, I think, opportunity is as the custodian of the brand to enable those experiences and create more digital touch points across the network to support the community and to give them tools and platforms and microphones to speak and advocate about our brand. The one other thing that I think is interesting from connected fitness is, you know, connecting the experience on our workout machine and giving our members the ability to share a workout that they're really excited about. You know, if they hit a milestone, like, you know, their 100th ride, or they've just hit 250,000 meters and they're excited and they want to be able to share that with their network, enabling those tools natively into the experience to connect them pretty seamlessly between our product and the places where they want to talk to and connect with their communities.
Thank you, Gretchen. This was a really, really very interesting point of view, and I really appreciate that. And there is another topic I always like to use to engage my students. And I have a question that is not for a student, but something that really knows about A/B testing. So this is for Rob. A/B testing is a marketer's best friend. We use it for paid campaigns, landing pages, email marketing, and more. But extreme A/B testing, however, generates a very strong gravitational force that gradually pushes competing brands toward one uniform approach. How can we keep creativity alive and protect the individuality of our brands?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think A/B testing is a super important tool. No one will tell you otherwise. I don't think. I do think that there's a A/B testing hasn't sort of, and the digital space hasn't been around for too long in the grand scheme of things. And I do think, well, first of all, you can't A/B test yourself into a great brand. You can A/B test yourself into the gutter, and at some point you do need to draw the line on what's worth it and what's not. But I think equally or more important to A/B testing is having just a true deep understanding of who your customers are, and what your targets are, and who they are as people, and then thinking about them as people. What are the features and the benefits created by those features in your product that actually appeal to your customers, and what are the words you should be using to talk to them? And you can't really get that from an A/B test. And this is where, folks like Gretchen, folks coming out of the CPG space, they've been doing this for decades, right? And before A/B testing was around, that was the way marketing worked. And at least in the Bay Area, I know, in the sort of tech ecosystem out here, there's a big emphasis on things like A/B testing and sort of lean startup and test your way into things, and there's not a ton of emphasis sometimes on really your brand position, your customer segmentation, your customer understanding, your messaging hierarchy, your communication hierarchy. And I think once you know those things, sitting down and actually watching real people use your product, your website, and your physical product, who are your target customer, and learning from that, I get, frankly, just as much or more value out of live user tests of our website than I do out of A/B tests. I think once you've done those things, A/B tests are actually then very, very valuable, because you're standing on a strong foundation of, okay, the messages are working, they resonate with our customers. There's no crazy dead ends or broken areas of our site. People can generally navigate and understand the way we want them to. Cool. Now let's then test this versus that within that framework. But if you haven't done the foundational work to get there, you're just you could be testing in the middle of a mess, and you don't have any idea of that. And yeah, you can't A/B test your way out of that. You got to sort of pump the brakes, step back, and really understand who you are and who your customers are and how you should be speaking to them.
Thank you, Rob. Can I summarize? Try to summarize, saying that A/B testing is a tactical tool, not a strategic tool.
Sure. I mean, it's not going to solve all your problems, that's for sure. And you have to do a lot of foundational work before you start really getting a whole lot of value out of it. You're sort of just getting a signal out of the wilderness, and if you don't know who your customers are, you don't know what's going on your site, you really you can A/B test the hell out of your conversion funnel, but if you don't actually watch people use it, you're not going to find all the actual problems that are going on, because you actually don't know what to test, because you don't know how people are using it.
Yeah, maybe if I can add on to that point, Rob, I totally agree with you. We tend to start with the user experience testing and watching live users go through our site, and then just hearing where they get stuck or where they get frustrated, and probing on those areas to understand what we could be doing better to tell our story. And one of the things we heard from customers at Hydro was, I don't understand these accessories. I don't understand why I need them. I don't understand how to use them. And so A/B testing would never have surfaced that for us, or given us the insight that in order to solve it, we actually needed to design the content in a completely different way to solve that user friction point. So I think used in complement with each other, they can be exceptionally powerful. Then once you understand, okay, I need some new content to explain this to consumers, you can A/B test your way into different versions of that content to see which is better solves the issues and creates more clarity for consumers.
If you allow me to give it 2 cents, the way that I see A/B testing is fine-tuning. There is no way to fine-tune a bad piano or a poor engine. Like, you need to have strong engineering. You need to understand what problems you're solving. You need to understand what you're trying to create a solid ones. And then there's going to be details options that you can test with A/B testing. That's what I've seen A/B testing being the most effective in getting success. By understanding the customers, understanding the problem, creating solutions, and then fine-tuning and chipping the rough corners until you get the most effective one.
Thank you, Raina. I'm glad we are not our job is not at risk to be taken by A/B testing, at least for now. So, Ren, I'll take the opportunity to ask you a question. This is more about
Franco.
yes.
Can I jump before the question? Just
Absolutely. Sure.
A small thing about the A/B testing, just before we're moving on to Ren. For us, A/B testing, and I understand what everybody's speaking about. A/B testing is super important when you're sending the traffic to web and stuff like that. I want to share that for me, one of the exciting. Ren, can you mute? There's some noise. Yeah, thanks. One of the exciting points in yellowHEAD is that 2 years ago we developed a technology named Allison, which is a technology that can break down a video into elements or a banner into elements. And I'm in this industry for the last 15 years, and everybody know that when you upload a creative, it's all about A/B testing. You upload a creative, and then you try A or B and go with the better version. So with Allison, what changed the A/B concept was the fact that it can actually break down the video into dozens of elements and just recommend after that how you're going to build the new creative out of those elements to the specific audience. So A/B testing for us as a agency that's specifying creative is something that sounds pretty old, and the multivariant that we all
Gal, I believe we lost your voice.
I can jump in on this one. I think just something else to add on A/B testing that is changing is, the traditional A/B test. Generally, the goal was to figure out which variation was most successful and then merge that back into the mainline experience. And then you sort of had a home base of here's how our website works. And now let's go test something else to see if we can improve this one centralized experience. And I believe, I'm not sure if it was Ren or Gal who was talking about personalization. I don't believe personalization is a blip. I think that's here to stay, although that does conflict with one of the other trends we've been talking about, which is cookies. So if cookies go away, it's going to be much harder to offer personalized experiences based on your past behavior on websites. If cookies stay, or marketers and technologists figure out how to work alongside all of the technology, privacy enhancements that folks are rolling out across different browsers and platforms, then we'll continue to have personalized experiences. But that is divergent from the traditional sort of agency model. Like, you hire a fancy agency to build your website, super focused. Like I to this day am still beating the drum of show me mobile first. And that seems to maybe be getting some traction. So we're not looking at massive desktop, huge full bleed images out of the gates. We're actually looking at what the consumers see on a mobile device to begin when you're working with a big agency doing a redesign. But what has not really merged into that work stream, and we're starting to work in this direction, is personalization. So how is this site actually going to show up for the various different segments that we have of our customer, and what is actually going to be said? What images are we going to use? How are we going to be talking about our product? And getting, I'm sure all of you have probably worked through several website relaunches in your past, and all the cat herding that goes into making everyone happy to get something live. We'll add to that, okay, we're actually going to be talking to 7 different customer segments, and we're going to be using A, B, and C to figure out who they are. And it adds exponential complexity to the process of a redesign or a relaunch. And then even just the QA and helping people understand that they actually are just a segment, and that's not how everything is going to look for everyone. Super interesting. And hopefully it continues, because that's actually really, really good from a consumer perspective. Things are going to be more interesting and more relevant to them. But if the privacy wars continue and things continue to escalate, personalization is going to become much more difficult.
Thank you, Robert, for highlighting this conflict between those two trends, the privacy and personalization, that are really hard to advance together. And now I want to ask a question to Ren. So every page now must have a structured data section in order to be taken seriously by Google crawler and other crawlers. But Google is leveraging the information from our structured data to display our content on their SERP. Is this a good thing because of the additional visibility, or a bad thing because we get fewer visitors?
Great. I love this question because of how complex it looks when you just look at it and how simple the actual solution of the thing is. So when it comes to structured data, there are 3 dimensions that you have to understand about it. One, that it helps the bot to understand your content. And obviously, you want to make it as easy as possible for any search engine bot to understand your content the way that you want them to understand. So you have an opportunity for you to talk to them in their language and increase their opportunity. Second is that when the bot understands your content, they can use this to create rich features on the SERP, and that can increase the click-through rate of your presence. So you already are number 2 on for a specific keyword. You now have images on it, you have site links on it, and you went from a 0.35 click-through rate to a 0.45 click-through rate. And that's more visitors for you for free with no improvements in your rankings. So you want to be aware of this. That's a possibility. The third dimension is that once the search engine understands your content better, it can archive and index and utilize your content in places where they are going to get the click to themselves or create the 0-click experience. You go to see like how much does a Jaguar costs, and you go like the Jaguar costs between this, and they got it from your website. Put it there. Now the user knows their answer, doesn't need to click anywhere. You have a reduction in CTR. So understanding these 3 dimensions of the structured data, you can strategically make decisions like how do you want to use it and where do you want to use it. Is the gain in CTR going to be going to trump the loss in CTR because Google is using? Is Google not using? You need to have the ability to monitor, to understand when Google is using your content to generate 0-click experiences. Is this generated 0-click experiences good for you? It is good exposure for your brand or not? It may be you have different goals. So it's easy to understand what it is and what the implications are, but it's more complex on the part that what the decisions, strategic decisions that you have to make to use it or not. And then to close this whole discussion, I think is at no point if you have to use it or not, because if you don't, your competitors will, and it's going to be a disadvantage for you. So you have to take what it is. It's kind of like a position that we use in SEO, like Google give, Google takes. So you got to use it, you got to do it. Try to do your best to create a rich experience so you can increase the click-through rate. And if Google uses it, try to enjoy the brand exposure and see how can you quantify the benefit of that. And move along. Don't try to fight the structured data or be late to the game, especially if your competitors are not taking this position. It's not going to be good for you.
So what you are suggesting is that we don't have to leave structured data to the programmers, the technical people. We have to take control and have a strategy for that.
Yeah, the way that I've seen the most effective in programs is that you have somebody who can code, and they know how to do it, and you have somebody who has the strategic mind and the idea on the data, on the analytics to see what is best. Team them up. It's not a one person's job. It's 2 people's job. It helps both of them to go faster and find out what is the most profitable for you.
Thank you, Ren. Anybody wants to add comment to this? Or okay, let's move to the next question that is for Gal. Okay, so this is a user-generated content is having a strong impact on e-commerce, with TikTok as the most prominent example, but obviously not the only one. We are not anymore limited just to Gen Z, as we know. Many of you were talking about how those social media are covering more and more a larger and larger audience. How to leverage user-generated content while scoring points with platform algorithms and their machine learning system. How to combine creativity and machine learning. This is go back a little bit to the point of serving 2 masters, the algorithm and the user. Gal.
No audio, Gal.
Gal, we can't hear you. Okay. Anybody else wants to comment on this question about the, combining user-generated content and pleasing the machine learning, the algorithm for the different platforms? Maybe Gretchen?
Sure. So, one of the things I had talked about earlier was the proliferation of different social media platforms, and the way that communities engage on them is really different from a platform to platform perspective. I think TikTok is one of those examples where you really need to be creating content as a brand that feels native to the platform, because if you show up like a traditional television ad on TikTok, it's just not going to land. It's not going to land with the consumers. And it's not going to land well for your brand either, because you look like you don't understand who they are and how they're engaging. So, one of the ways that we've seen some success is by leveraging either content that's been created by our consumers and our members, or content that's been created by our influencers on TikTok, and putting some paid behind that, where the algorithm already recognizes, I would say, the nature of that native content. And that it's embedded in the conversation and the natural use on TikTok today.
Guys, can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Wonderful timing, just at the end. Sorry. If there are no tech issues, then it's not a real webinar. Just wanted to add on that in terms of UGC and content and TikTok and everything is going on, and obviously TikTok, the UGC is not even the future; it's actually the present. Now, at the end of the day, we need to remember that people are people, and when they buy, they trust other people. If from boomers to Generation Z, we trust friends and family, and now we trust what's happening in social signals. We want to buy what others are buying, and we want to see the social effect on that. So whether it's reviews, feedback, stuff like that within the platform, help us make the purchase decision. I've been seeing even in Amazon and Barnes and Noble and stores like a badge of as seen on TikTok. The social impact is so strong that it's actually going to the physical stores, and maybe it's not too hard or too harsh to say that traditional ads are dying, and you need to be very unique in how you generate your new ads, UGC. 2 weeks ago, if you saw, there's a famous Chinese YouTuber guy that sold over $2 billion in 12 hours worth of beauty merchandise. So all of this is going on, and TikTok is promoting the creative-based ads, and all other platforms are following. So just in terms of summarizing up, as an advertiser, what you need to do, you need to generate your own UGC. So don't use Shutterstock, don't use plain videos and stuff like that. Go and generate your own light production that look very genuine and very real on one hand. On the other hand, work with your community. You have your customers, they like your product, they like your merchandise, and you know how you need to leverage that in order to engage and create more traction. And at the end, you need to work with a very good technology platform to make sure UGC is still content and videos. So at the end of the day, make sure you analyze that, you're working on that, and make sure that you're uploading the most accurate creative to the platform. Because in Addison, we see, for example, in the e-com, that if you show the moment of purchase, it raises the trust and increase the conversion rate. So use all that together.
Thank you, Gal. I'm so glad you managed to, at least your voice, to come back. Now, thank you, everybody. Back to Dave now.
Thank you very much, Franco, and a big thanks to all of our speakers today for all of their insights. Gretchen Saig-Fleming, Rob Webb, Ren Lacerda, Gal Barr, and our moderator, Franco Fellini. And thank you as well to yellowHEAD for making today's event possible. Now, just a few quick final notes to wrap things up here. We did record today's webinar, and you'll be receiving an email with a link to access that recording when it's available. So if you missed anything, or if you'd like to view this again, check your inboxes for that email. Also, in just a moment, a very brief survey will pop up on your screen. You'll be able to rate this webinar on a 5-star scale and also provide us with comments and other feedback. So please take a couple of moments to do that. Let us know what you thought about today's webinar. And finally, a reminder that today's webinar is copyright 2021 by VentureBeat. The presentation materials are owned by or copyrighted by VentureBeat, which is responsible for their content, and the individual speakers are solely responsible for their content and their opinions. Thanks so much for being with us today. That does conclude today's VB Live event. We will see you next time. Have a great day.